Hi friends, welcome to my nest. My name is Kate. Today we are sewing block number 9 of our Designer Mystery Block of the Month from Factwater Shop. If you are subscribed to the block of the month, this is what your block will look like this month right here. I've made a small modification to this blue fabric right here. I'm using a dark blue of this fabric that looks something like this. So that's the small modification that I'm going to be making this month. And I am also going to, instead of cutting the fabric in a small triangle, I'm going to try to show you guys how to make the hourglass 4 at a time style without having to cut different fabric 4 different times. So this is what our block is going to look like when we're done. Okay, so this is what I'm going to sew. Our designer this month is Bridget Heideland, and she is the designer for Zen Chic. She is a German designer that designed for Moda, and she is a more of a modern fabric designer, which is like your version of Tulip Pink for Free Spirit. She is that version for Moda. I'm going to show you the fabric that she designed. Now, these fabrics are gifted to me. Let me show you. It's right back here, right? So these is the, this one is the filigree right here. It's got the dark blue, the black. It's got the gray, it's got the dark gray, the lighter gray, the yellow, and like this is kind of like a brownish gray with the off color, like the lighter background. And then this one right here, these back here are my 5-inch squares that I have, and I'm just putting it back there because I don't know what to do with them. So hopefully you have some idea. If you have an idea, comment down below so that way I can find what to do with them. I really like them, and I just haven't found pattern that I like that I want to use it for. So they're like back there. I know they're back there, but I don't have to see them every day. This is the frisky right here. Now, if you can see, this kind of mimics a little bit of fall. So this is like a navy blue with turquoise. This is turquoise, orange, and yellow. So this can really go with fall, like pumpkins and stuff like that. So this is the kind of fabric that she designed. I don't want to open it because I want to leave it in the package. So that is that. With that being said, shall we sew this block? Yes. So let's sew the block. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and sew this hourglass squares first, and we're going to make 4 of them. And without me giving away the pattern, so Factwater Shop has you cutting out 4 different fabric right here, like cutting 4 different triangle on all 3 fabrics. But I'm not going to do that. So in this pattern, it is very well illustrated for you to cut it the way the pattern was being written. I am going to do it a different way. Okay, so that's why I have the overhead camera situation going on. Hopefully you guys can see what I have laid out. Okay, so I have 4 different fabric. I have this 2 right here, and then I have this 1 extra right here. And so I'm going to put this over here for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this next to each other. Okay, I hope you can see that. And I'm going to put this right here. I'm going to put this right here. So I know that I want my squares to look like this at the end. Okay, I want to have the 2 lighter color here. I'm going to have a white and I'm going to have a blue. So that's why when you're making an hourglass of any size or whatever size is called for, you are going to need, if you're going to make 2 facing each other, you're going to need 2 of that same fabric, 1 of the other fabric that only shows up 1 in the hourglass. So what we're doing now is sewing this right here, sewing this right here, and then we're going to, I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch from the center here, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch from the center here, and I'm going to do the same thing to both fabrics. Now, if you're a beginner, this may be a little bit for you, but there are people who are beginner watching this, and there are people that are not. The illustration in the pattern does beautiful, but I just wanted to teach you a step ahead, because if you have to make quite a bit of the hourglass squares, it's going to cause your fabric to stretch if you don't starch. For me, it doesn't make any difference. It's just that I have so many fabrics to be cut and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to do it this way. All right, so now we're going to sew. So like I said, we're sewing going this way, a 1/4 inch. Actually, you know what? Let me draw because this will be a little bit more easier for you to see. This is friction erasable pen. I'm just going to draw so you guys can see. Okay. And I'm going to come and draw on the other one. There are a lot of other marking tools out there that you can use. I'm kind of a creature of habits at this point. I'm just going to stick to what I know and what works. So now let's sew this thing right here. Okay. So I'm going to sew 1/4 inch apart. All right, so now I have both of them sewn. I have a stitch here and a stitch here. So what I'm going to do is cut straight down the middle. Well, since I have a marking here, it wouldn't matter at this point. I'm just going to cut. Okay, cut. All right, so I'm just going to press all 4. I'm not trimming it. I'm just cutting. Without giving away the pattern, I will share with you the size of what you need to go by when you're doing this. So now I have the same color still right here, and then I have these guys looking like this, right? You're gonna do one more step. Remember, I did not trim. So what you're going to do is make sure you put it like this. All right, so this part right here is showing, and this part right here is opposite from the same color. You're not doing this because it will look bad. You're going to do this, okay? You're going to put them together. Make sure I changed my mind on that. I went on ahead and pressed open because I feel like it'll be easier. What I'm going to do here is make sure my seam are lined up like on top of each other, exactly on top of each other. So right there is my seam on both squares. You can see it right there. I just folded it back. And also on top of all that, this is another time for me to see what they look like. This is what it's going to look like. This is how you're going to know that you did it right. So you're going to have this two right here kissing, and this is the opposite. Okay, so we're going to fold it back, make sure they're right. This is when I pin. Okay, because I'm not going to put all this work in and realize that my seam does not match. I'm going to be mad at myself, nobody but myself. So, and it doesn't have to be exactly like the size. They don't have to match on this side. They just need to be, the most important thing is making sure that your seam lined up. And I'm going to just pin like that. All right. So now that I have pin, I'm going to check. All right. Check one more time. So what we're going to do again is I'm drawing another line so that way you guys can kind of see what I'm doing and how I'm sewing. So I'm going to draw another line right here. Okay. So I went on ahead and drew on both squares. Both of them are going the right direction where they're supposed to go. I'm just going to do the same thing I did. I'm going to sew, I'm going to stitch. Moment of truth. So I have stitched my line right here, 1/4 inch apart from the center. So the moment of truth, I'm going to cut it, the center. I'm going to use a scissors, cut, and then, so this is what, when you're done, this is what it's going to look like. All right. So all 4 of them will look like this. This is how I know that I did it right, because I have 2 of them like this, and then I have 1 over here. So what I'm going to do now is press them open, like press all of them with an iron. So I'm just going to go ahead and press before I trim them, because I want my seams to be as flat as I can have it. And it doesn't matter right now if it looks wonky or anything. You're just going to trim down. Okay. I would rather do it like this, you know, for me, than to cut the 4 pieces. And I wanted to just kind of show you a different route than what the pattern said. That way you have an option. There are more than one way to do one thing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is bring this over to my table. So what we're doing now is trimming. So you're going to make sure that your center, that they line up. Okay, like your center right here lines up and your seam line are going the right direction. They're lining up. So what you're doing here is just trimming. Now, I have trimmed all 4 of the hourglass. So this is what it's supposed to look like. The only thing different is that I'm using a different blue. This is what it's going to look like when you're all done and trim it down. When you're trimming down your square, you have to put the middle, like let's say, without giving away the pattern. So if it was if you're trying to do a 3.5 inch hourglass, you're going to look for your 1.75 line, which is right this last white right here. You're going to make sure that that's your line, and then you're going to line it up, and then you're going to trim. But that's how I do my hourglass to make it easier, and then after that I trim it down. Now if you're doing a 3.5 inch or 4.5 inch hourglass, and then you want to cut out your 4 squares, you're going to cut I always add, so if I'm doing 3.5, right, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, okay, that's the least. If I want to be generous and I have more than enough fabric, I will probably just cut, I don't know, 6, just to be, if you're a beginner, I will probably cut 6 and then just sew down, because remember, when you're sewing, you're going to take away 1/2 inch. And then when you're sewing the second time, you're going to take another 1/2 inch. So I would say between 5.5, 6 will be plenty of fabric to cut for all 4. So, and that's the same rule that I use if I'm cutting 4.5, 5.5, 6.5, 7.5, whatever. I just add 2.5 inches to my square, and that always works for me. So that is that. I just want to just kind of like explain what I am doing, so that way you guys will understand how I am able to save quite a bit of time. Now we're going to move on to our next step. Our next step wants us to sew squares, but what I'm doing is making a strip, and then I will sew down this, and I will cut it to what is required. So let's do that. I sew this in strip. So what I'm going to do now is cross cut it to what the pattern calls for. Okay. Okay. So now all 4 of these are sewn, and I have my cross weave all going the same way. We'll see how that works out at the end. All right. So now I have the bottom part on. So all I'm going to do is just chain piece them all together. Okay. I'm making sure that they all go in the same direction. So now all 4 pieces are sewn on, and I'm going to do is just press them. I'm going to press with an iron just to flatten my seam that I just sewn. This is everything. All 4 of them are sewn together. So the next step is to assemble this block. The first thing I'm going to do is put our corner pieces on, making sure that I did get them right. So I'm going to put the corner pieces on first. That's just my preference. You can do otherwise. All 4 of the lighter colors, the weave part, are going the same direction. That's kind of what I wanted, because I'm just anal like that. You don't have to. So I'm just going to bring the center piece on. Okay. And then we're going to bring that hourglass that we made earlier like this. Okay, we're going to put it like this. This is pretty much what our block is going to look like. Now, this is the fabric that they want us to use for this part right here. So the reason why I personally did not use it is because I feel like this is cross weave, cross right here, and these colors are kind of busy. So I wanted something a little bit more subdued to the eye, and I wanted something more, less busy. Not that there's anything wrong with this. That is just what I prefer. Now, if you can you're more than welcome to do this. That the reason why I'm using this is because I have more of this fabric left from previous blocks. So I just went on ahead and used it. I just wanted to just point that out before I construct the entire block. I'm going to sew this right here, and this right here, and our block is going to be done. So let's do that. So I'm just going to bring this over here. I'm going to pin my points. Now, pinning my points is where my sewing seam meets, so that way I can do justice for this block and I don't, have a wonky seam, or out of place seam rather. I'm going to come over here and pin as well. So here's my block all completed right here. This is the pattern right here. So if you can see there, that is, I've made that small modification to this blue fabric right here. I like it. I think it's a little bit more calmer, even though it's the same as this one. It's still a different color. It just makes it, for me, less busy. And that's just pretty much what I did. And I have these guys going this way. I try as much as I could to make it go the same direction, but it didn't work. So I made an effort, but that's okay. I'm happy with it. This is supposed to be fun. I'm not going to beat myself upside the head because I didn't get it going the right direction, even though I tried. That's fine. So this is my block all completed. If you're sewing along with Fat Quarter Shop and you are getting the Designer Mystery Block of the Month and you want to make this modification, here it is. This is what yours will look like if you make modification. So with that being said, I have my blocks all completed and I hope you're making yours. I hope that you are having a great day, and don't forget to subscribe down below, and I would love to see you in my next video. You have a great day. Bye.